Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. Today I wanted to talk to you about the narcissistic person's need to win. This is something that virtually everybody encounters when dealing with pathologically narcissistic people, so I thought we could talk about it on the show today. You might have noticed that narcissistic people have a problem with losing. They're almost phobic about it. They will do anything to win, including lie, cheat, steal, and even kill in some cases. Everything becomes a competition where they have to somehow come out on top, even basic conversation or situations where others agree with them. They have a huge problem with admitting and accepting that they're wrong or mistaken, and they will often go as far as possible to deny facts, proof, or anything that contradicts what they're claiming, even if this means they have to venture into arguments that sound delusional or make total fools of themselves. Conversations with pathologically narcissistic people can resemble high-stakes debates or prosecutions in a court of law where people are grilled relentlessly over minor details or become lost in semantics and word salad. What was said, explaining what was meant by what was said, tone, inflection, word choice, motive, and much more become the focal point of the interaction instead of whatever the actual point of the conversation was. The point itself is, of course, hopelessly lost, buried under the 2 tons of crap that the narcissist has heaped upon it in the hope of never having to face, acknowledge, or resolve anything. They don't want resolution. They want conflict. Every conversation, every argument, every interaction becomes a contest that they must win at all costs. This is extremely frustrating for people. The goal of communication for most people is to understand, to be understood, to resolve conflict, to gain knowledge, to solve problems, to share. None of these things are possible with pathologically narcissistic people because nothing they're saying is genuine in the sense that most other people understand things to be genuine. After a while, you realize that even when you're not arguing, they're just playing you. They're trying to win this contest they've created in their mind, and whatever they have to do or say in order for that to happen is what they will do or say. This is why people become so exhausted from these interactions and why the narcissist doesn't become exhausted. They're getting supply and a rush from the competition, from the promise of a win. They're chasing that rush. They're playing a game just like someone who's gambling. It's very similar, in fact, to gambling. The other person has a completely different goal than the narcissist. They're desperately trying to be heard and solve a problem. They're choosing what to say very carefully. They're focusing intently. They're concentrating. This is exhausting. And narcissists sit there soaking it all up and pulling on the arm of that emotional slot machine they're playing with, hoping this time the other person retreats and they can come up with that jackpot win. Even if you're not fighting with the narcissist and just trying to hold a conversation, they're often contradicting, one-upping, condescending, bluffing, preaching, sermonizing, correcting, complaining, and confabulating. This is exhausting as well. You may feel like you're always defending, even during seemingly regular conversation and even when the narcissist is not angry. Because of these things, it's important to understand that it's basically pointless to bother trying to reason with someone who's pathologically narcissistic. All they care about is winning. If they're wrong, if they're mistaken, if they're flawed, if they lose, then they're not perfect. Narcissists believe if anyone, including themselves, is not perfect, that person is worthless. In order to be perfect, a person must be always right, always flawless, always important, they must never fail, and they must never lose. The act of being wrong, of losing, often triggers a tidal wave of shame and self-hatred for pathologically narcissistic people. To be wrong is to be imperfect. To be imperfect is to be garbage, unworthy of love or anything else. The only way they can counteract or prevent these feelings is to make sure they're never wrong and they never lose. Of course, this is ridiculous and unreasonable, and it's one of the reasons dealing with pathologically narcissistic people is so difficult. No one's perfect. No one is flawless. No one is always right. No one always wins. Dealing with a person who's trying to force you into living that delusion as a reality is torturous, and ultimately it's impossible. Somebody has to be to blame when the narcissistic person is inevitably wrong, mistaken, or flawed, and if it can't be them, it's going to be whoever's convenient. That's you. After all, you can't be right unless somebody else is wrong. You cannot win unless somebody else loses. These are people who have nothing of their own. Narcissists have nothing of their own. Anything they get must come at the expense of somebody else. Always. The knowledge that narcissistic people need to win is really, really important because it helps you to understand what the stakes are during every single interaction with this type of person. This is someone who too often takes even a simple conversation as a contest they must win in order to prove to the world and to themselves that they deserve to live. This type of thing is the only way they can create self-worth. It's the only power they are capable of grasping. It keeps the self-hatred away. It validates their existence. It sustains them. In other words, this need to win is really, really important, and it is not going away. This is how they have learned to deal with life and get their needs met. Remember that when you're dealing with someone that you believe is pathologically narcissistic, they're not working towards resolving problems. In fact, what you believe to be the problem is probably not anywhere close to what they think it is. Their way of thinking is not your way of thinking. Their goals are not your goals. Their motives are not your motives. This is a person who, in some ways, operates completely differently than you do. Attempting to deal with a narcissist without truly accepting and understanding this only leads to problems. Reality needs to be accepted here, otherwise expectations are going to be unrealistic, and that leads to hurt, disappointment, and unhappiness. If narcissists need to win so badly, and the only way they can win is if you lose, perhaps the best decision is simply not to play. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online, over the phone, through text, via email, so if you're interested in speaking with me one-on-one, you can visit littleshaman.org and click the Book an Appointment tab to go ahead and do that, or you can use the link that's available in the information section of this video. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day.